Welcome back to the first best of 3 of tonight, and obviously we've already seen the first map and it kind of went one way. Unfortunately, SSG very quickly locked it off and they did it in style. I think it's fair to say a relaxed style. They were happy on their vibe.
Yeah, they were just cruise control up the motorway. Highway, if you're American, of course, but we use the proper English. We use the Queen's English, don't we?
Yes, the words that we are supposed to speak. As we go into this next game, Atheris, what can they really do?
You come out with some great stuff, don't you?
Thank you. This is the dream team.
It is.
Ying! A Ying ban from Atheris.
That's new.
Right?
It's been a long time since Ying's been banned. A very long time.
It's like a double up there, unfortunately.
Long time. We haven't really seen that back in the day, you know, with the Ying Glass meta where it was a toughie to kind of push against. And even, you know, players like Hungry on Penta, he's been known to play that operator. Of course, got the fastest ace in competitive play on that same operator on this same map, actually, as well. But I don't really think SSG would bring that operator anyway, even if they had the chance to. They're very clean in their operators that they choose. You know, very common ones that do great jobs, you know, definitely up in towards the kind of 75% and up kind of pick rate.
Jackal is obviously taken off next, and alongside the Echo as well. They've kind of set themselves up in a position here where, again, I'm kind of just looking at the Ying bang and being a bit confused. The same way we looked at the Blackbeard bang from the previous one.
It's a rough one to call. But hey, if they want to go for it, they can go for it. Then Jackal, Mira, Echo. I don't know. What do you think about Jackal and Border? Because it's not a massive roam game kind of map. There's not a whole lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when we kind of looked at this as a beginning one, we looked at this as one that was going to be very aggressive. One that we were going to see them probably just try and throw themselves at this combat, and then from that point onwards, you know, it's a frag match, and it's one where they're just going to try and frag themselves out as far as they can go.
So all hard breach open as well for SSG, but only bringing the Thermite on their lineup. And other than that, yeah, pretty comfortable picks. You have the Thatcher Thermite combo, of course, Buck for destructibility, which can be nice if you would even go below, and that can be a way of getting rid of the Bandit, as that can be a big operator that can, of course, trick the Thermite charges away. And even having the Capital, that's great for half-wall coverage, and just the smokes being added onto that. And I'm a big believer, Fluke, where every single kind of lineup of operators, you need to bring one with smokes. You need to have that coverage to be able to go for the plant.
And what we've seen so far has been a very good plant coverage, and I think we've seen a very good kind of effort to get the diffuser as close to point as possible, and SSG have been very good at locking it down. Atheris obviously managed to get the diffuser down once, and then attempted it a couple of times as well. They're in the position and places to try and throw it down, and if anything, the pace of Atheris in the initial setup was very good. They got themselves from A to B, got the wall open that they wanted to, and then from that point onwards, things started to fall apart. But on a map like Border, where there's a lot less space for SSG to fly around in, they might find themselves in a bit of a better position.
So they're going to go for the classic Maestro camera, where you open up one half of the soft wall and armory, and that looks straight down towards that west balcony, which is kind of the main entry point for many attackers if you're trying to take security as well, and that's typically where the Thermite wants to hang around, and if you can eliminate him pretty quickly, then you're in a great spot, and especially whenever SSG are only bringing the Thermite, then that helps quite a bit. So Atheris, they've got a really spread out strategy, extending over towards office and also defending in towards security. So they're trying to hold the entire top floor. I don't know how that's going to work out for them. So they have no bottom floor control, which is where SSG are going to try and get themselves in towards. And as we know, Rampy on the back can go underneath, can use the verticality that he has, and even a nade up for a hatch. That's potential for him as well.
Well, they're setting themselves up now to be able to try and get this, as you said, continual control. Rampy is looking at cracking open all of the floor above and behind monitors, and so far they've found no bodies. They're just going to lie in wait and try and let SSG fall apart. upon them a little bit more than they've obviously previously done. Kef is holding the angle on the close, sees the drone go by and isn't going to react to it just yet, but does have the option of rotating out. However, it is into a veritable lion's den, as they will very quickly find themselves on the end of a, well, Rampy with a shotgun. Bosco is the first one to open up the frags, though, as he takes care of Kef, and now you can see him trying to find the other person behind half wall as Fultz doubles down and drops Allendorf, and triples down as he finds Scumsy as well.
It's a great clear out from SSG. Fultz is being able just to walk on in, and you can kind of see how strategical SSG are. They are so dominant in the rounds that they kind of play out. I'm expecting a lot of flawless victories from them, kind of expected off the Pro League caliber of themselves, and well, that's a little bit sloppy from Canadian. Just pushing in, trying to open up the L wall. That has cost him his life, but I still feel that, you know, all the damage has been done, and there's another one falling off, a 1v4. All to do for the Bandit. Oh, great snapshot. He has to do that 3 more times. He wants to make this round a success. And SSG now, they've finally realized, let's not just run in 1 by 1. Let's double up and try and prioritize the plant. But they have no idea. Bandits on the flank, but as soon as Sophia gets killed, then Thatcher will be alert of the position. I say that. No, he's not. A 1v1 all of a sudden, and Rampy has it all to do.
The fact that this man so continually, Guicho, has been able to find himself in these situations has been just unbelievable. And now with 10 seconds left, Rampy has a choice. Push and try and find the frag or plant. He's going to hope that the man is too far away or that he can react quickly. And there is the swing, and Guicho manages to survive, pull himself down to East, just has to pull himself away, and this should be it, and it is! Atheris take the first round with an astronomical 4K against the space station.
No, you're wrong. Atheris didn't take that round from them. Guicho did.
Guicho did. What a play he's had there. And obviously this is the player that we highlighted in the previous map, because of the round that they won was him going off, finding his own way, finding the hole in SSG's defense and completely taking advantage of it.
I don't get it. SSG, they had such a good start. Their opening segment of clearing out security was pitch perfect. Nothing went wrong, not a single bit of damage for anybody. And then they start getting carried away. They start pushing in 1 by 1. Nobody's there for the refrag. I just don't get it. And again, where's the drones? I'm not seeing a lot of drones from SSG.
I mean, I think they're coming in relaxed. They're coming in like they don't really care. They're setting themselves in a position where they just want to try and take the point, and that is the price that they're going to pay. If they get sloppy, you've got to realize it can be punished in Siege. You never really know how a round can swing until, unfortunately, it's already, well, it's swung that way. Atheris put themselves 1 round up, and it is the opening, so it gives themselves a little bit of a clean slate, but at the same time, SSG surely and hopefully are going to, well, kind of find more definite style about their play, because that round, as you said, they funneled in, they just kind of let themselves go down, and from that point it all really fell apart.
Now Vince up for the defense. How are they going to set themselves up? They're bringing the castle, so more than likely to cover off certain angles that SSG may want to use and abuse, and there's one on the main door, which I'm not a big fan of putting castle barricades on outside positions, because it's very simple for like a sledge to get rid of it, or even somebody with breaching charges, and you can simply just go and bash it, because you're really not at any disadvantage if you're trying to get rid of a castle barricade from outside. And just something I'm kind of against, Luke. What do you think? What's your take on it?
On castle in general, and castle...
Just on the outside window portion kind of thing, because I feel as if it's just so easy to get rid of them.
Yeah, I think when you have castle upstairs, or when you throw castle onto the teller's side, on the opposite side, and kind of limit that curve round around the big open area, and you force them to have to play a little bit, well, they're going to have to cost utility or eat a lot of time if they try and go for a rotate. For me, that's a good play. On the window itself, it's 1 click and it's gone. You have the information, and it also, you've got to realize that those solid walls work 2 ways. Unless you sneakily prep one to be a quick hit and run out kind of situation, or you're ready to impact and take advantage of it. For SSG, that's a safe space. They can set up, they can move in, maneuver in, and get themselves in a position where they might be able to react quicker when it does come push to shove, because you know that they have been bringing utility, you know that they are capable of using that to, well, cost effectively find their way into the core of your defense.
So top floor's kind of been given to SSG. You know, literally they've just said, hey, take it, we don't want it. And for a Ferris here, they need to try and find an opening pick, specifically onto Rampy as that buck. He's the guy they're looking for. Really nobody else there I kind of think would have a massive impact compared to what Rampy can do in this verticality. And here he comes, he starts opening up and start renovating the place.
Yeah, they really just hand all this territory over. Now, they do have C4s in pocket, but Guicho is the first to find faults yet again, striking from the back and striking into the heart of what SSG are attempting. They're not expecting him to be as loose and wild as he is, and playing around those central stairs has just kind of paid dividends for them. Rampy, in the meantime, is going to complete his systematic destruction as they slowly crack their way in towards the point and start potentially looking at a plant, but there is the second one dropped as Rampy hits the floor. Bosco manages to find Guicho, who'd otherwise rotated back towards the corner of point, and they are going to try and get the man picked back up from above. But again, you've got to give credit to what Guicho is trying to pull this team into.
Pickup comes in from Rampy, and as long as they still have that upstairs control, this is a very simple B plant for SSG. There's the pick that they needed to try and get them spurred in towards the bomb site. Here comes Canadian with the plant. To cover should be held from the angles being opened up, and he's actually been fired out by his own teammate, and he's been forced to stand on top of the table. Smoke tries to push in, but no, gets shut down straight away in SSG. A nice sweep in the final 10 seconds.
Well, they bring themselves back to level pegging, and they find themselves on the 1-1. And it was obviously, for all the control they were handed, the actual kind of collapse came, well, it was a little bit scattered at points. I think SSG is still waking up the communication game, because obviously we saw the plant attempted in and amongst the own fire.
Yeah, just a little bit kind of spurred over towards them, but I don't think it was a massive issue for the most part.
No, and if you can kind of see the spread of kills across the Theris with, well, only
the
one
spread of kills,
one standout
one
player
kills.
getting kills, it kind of highlights the issue there is, yes, these rounds are coming down to a bit of a wire, but it's never really been a test of SSG so far, apart from the one round at the beginning where they were completely taken by surprise. But, as we said in the first map, you cannot rely on a talisman player to pull you through map after map after map and round after round after round, because that's when things start to fall apart. Because as soon as they shut down that one player, you still got 4 other players. You got to utilize them.
SSG are very slow, aren't they? They take a lot of time.
Yeah, they've been getting themselves set up. They've been trying to hold angles and get enough control to be comfortable. And obviously it's making the end push become a little bit frantic, because they're not really, well, in that round at least, they weren't really finding the Atheris player as quickly as they hoped to, but yeah, it happened a few times on Clubhouse as well. It's
very Vitality-esque, isn't it? Well, old Vitality-esque. They take things right to the wire. They don't like losing players. You know what? It's one thing about Vitality back in the day was they looked the most terrifying team to play against on attack. The way that they would just mesh out everything together was a work of pure genius. And I kind of see the resemblance of SSG. They're kind of playing that very slow, methodical style. And to be honest, their executes, apart from the kind of final thing that happened to them, of course, the first round, everything just looked tip-top shape. Yeah, and that's the thing about it, is you think, you know, they're setting themselves up and they're kind of relying on it. But it's one of those arguments is when you're playing against a team that might not be as formulaic as you and is a bit, you know, kind of wild and a bit loose, and that's when those strategies can occasionally be taken apart by one plucky player, as we saw in the very first round. So I think SSG just needs to be a little bit more aware of the chaos that Atheris might be able to bring. In the meantime, if you're in the kind of gaze of Atheris, in a weird way, lean into that. As we've already seen, only one player has had any real impact or effect on this round and game so far, and it was with some pretty exceptional movement and fragging. If they can rally the rest of the team to maybe back him up or give him some support and create a bit of enough point structure to cause a little bit more chaos, they might be able to find 1 or 2 SSG bodies and start to dig away at the slow setup that SSG are otherwise trying to run. Otherwise, you can see them yet again getting vertical and throws the C4, and if he'd pulled it when he threw it, it would have been a kill, but unfortunately, no
dice as he sees the head swing past as well. Grisho unfortunately unable to land a second one. They have a bit of a spread out hold down here on the ground floor, but unfortunately it's generally all been droned and slowly closed down as Alan is just going to head out of customs and detention as quickly as possible. Well, at least most of it, and then try and hold on to the drop down as Grisho is trying to double up support.
And again, Ferris just gave SSG what they wanted, and that was control of upstairs to utilize ramp beyond the buck, and he will open up, and the first kill goes their way, and there's the second, as I said. So now for SSG, just all we need to do is try and stick the plant, which this time they know they have the man advantage whenever there is still players from a Ferris scattered around the map. They can simply walk in, the fire and smoke combo works a charm, but the cover is not there, and doesn't really matter in the long run, but still, that was risky enough from SSG.
Well, they get the diffuser almost down that time round and survive the onslaught, but again, look at the vertical hold that they've got. Look at the vertical that they've kind of latched onto, and then in that same angle, look at what is being handed to them. The ground that Atheris are refusing to hold onto and refusing to lock down is all of what SSG want. You've got to try and add a response to that. You've got to realize that this is how they're playing, and this is how a lot of teams play this, and this is where they're completely locking down your movements. Put someone up there. Put two people up there and a handful of utility. You never know, A, how much time you might eat up in a team that you've already seen be a little bit time pressured, and B, how many bodies you might be able to take.
Okay, SSG, they're ready to go for their next attack. It will be back up to the armory, which probably going to give them some pretty scary flashbacks. Halloween's coming up soon.
Yeah.
I've just realized that as well.
It's very close. Halloween is very close. I think there's a play day on Halloween that you and Sternab might be casting.
Let me check.
You double check that, and I'll have a look at this.
You talk.
I'll talk about the game. So we can see obviously them going back to this point, and you would assume SSG are going to be a little bit more aware of the potential of the Roam. And I say Roam, and I mean Grisho, who again had the absolutely outstanding round, but that was from a mix of aggression and game senses, just being in a position where they didn't really expect to find him, because as we said, lean into that. That's where you can try and take apart SSG that are a slow and steady setup team, at least in this map.
Yeah, we have Latin America on the 31st.
Are you two dressing up?
Me and Sternab, I don't think me and him need to dress up. We're already, look like monsters anyway.
How dare you?
It's not as if I don't need to put, clown face paint on.
I think that the players out there, and maybe this is actually a better rallying cry during the CL game, where we've got a lot of big names that would probably love to run polls to see what they should dress you and Sternab up as.
Yeah, hard pass.
What?
Yeah, I'm good.
You don't want to give the option to Twitter?
No.
To
I don't trust Twitter. I don't trust Twitter. I don't trust Twitter. I never will. Never have. Yeah, we're just gonna try and skip that away. But hey, sure, Halloween's coming up.
Halloween's coming up.
Everybody in the Siege community, you don't need to dress up. We're all clowns anyway, so what's the point?
I hope you've all been enjoying the event. Now, let's have a look at the hold that they are doing this time. There's bodies in CCTV, and quite a few of them, although Fultz is starting to dig through. Maestro, unfortunately, put a lot of bullets into Thinking Nade, but Thinking Nade lives to fight another day, and it's just going to keep the angle as Rampy starts to cause some destruction from underneath. Fultz, again, is able to survive an onslaught, and there is the close down across this top floor. Maestro had two opportunities there to be able to really put a dent in what was going on, but just couldn't find the important parts of the SSG players to bring them to their end. Grisho, in the meantime, is backing off and further away, rotating out to offices, leaving only Putin inside the point, and has actually swung all the way around there, actually, as I say that, to double up and offer a bit of support on this armory wall and try and just keep some control as they back into the northern side of armory lockers.
Wall being opened up, that will allow their beachhead in, and already the plant's trying to come in straight as fast as the wall was opened, and, well, SSG, they just walk on in, and I kind of expected the flawlesses, and here they come. That's 2 in a row now for SSG.
They're trying to at least adapt, but it's not enough. for me, Atheris, because obviously they did put bodies in CCTV previously, and I'm just thinking, you know, it was shut down as a bit of a slaughter previously, and their option there was to throw another body in, and then that was just another lamb for the slaughter. Because what SSG did brilliantly wasn't the outgunning, which you're always going to try and expect them to be able to pull off. It was that they had all the angles covered. So when Thinking Nade could hold one on one side, at that point, they were free to then rotate the SAPPHIRE around and close down from the other. And then at that point, Thinking Nade could then step a bit closer. And for now, Atheris don't have a response to that. What they need to start doing is just pulling a little bit wider, be able to give yourself more of a bit of individual control over those firefights, because as soon as you lock yourself into that kind of situation where you're giving them two huge flanks to break down against you, SSG are so good and so clinical at forcing those angles with time.
Also, another thing for SSG that we can kind of look at as a great talking point is the prospect of Canadian going on to solely hard breach and hard support on attack.
It's weird to see.
It is weird. Whenever we're used to seeing this man as a very aggressive frag operator, it's a different kind of tone of pace. And that's the thing about, I kind of think the SSG were missing, was somebody like Canadian, a big star player who we know is a veteran of the scene, who can give, I feel, some great kind of work experience, we'll say. So, you know, a player like Rampy, who has that young gun, raw skill, talent. And I think the addition of Canadian, honestly, was like the best decision they could have made at the time. And I know just over the course of like the next year, this team, I feel, have a real great chance of having a mental run at, you know, any majors. May it be the next major, or, you know, if they do qualify for invite, then hey, that also could be their time, but they have to get through OGA first.
Yep, and OGA is, again, obviously, they're all playing for the chance at being in the minor in the beginning of December in Croatia that could be set up to have some very big teams there.
Whenever I look at the OGA pit, I wouldn't say that the qualifiers are, you know, the big thing to look at. It's going to be the LAN event, which is going to be absolutely brutal. You are taking the top two teams who haven't qualified for the majors, so you discount the top two for every region, and also, you know, TSM and Empire, and you throw them into a tournament.
Well, that's the thing.
That's crazy.
See, we were kind of debating this earlier, and if we take the likely teams, let's just see that shut down there.
Finally, just Rampy was carried away.
Again, bringing the aggression that we've complimented them. Sorry, we have obviously seen bodies already dropped from Atheris, but there is one back, and that is the buck off the table, who has otherwise been a very big thorn in the side of Atheris so far. So that's going to give them a lot of breathing room, just in terms of how they've generally been shut down pretty systematically. As we've said, SSG, this map have been a very systematic team. They've been able to find the ground, push people back, and then from that point onwards, it's generally fallen to them being able to shut down for the multiple flanks. And at this point, they're not being given all that ground. Guisho is swinging wide against the aggressive hold and is going to pull himself back into the point. Has the option to rotate underneath. But from this point onwards, it looks like they're just going to try and take this as a flat firefight against the armory side. SSG have the thermite, and they're going to get that wall open, and they have all the time in the world as well, with Fultz watching the rotation on the far side. That was a very bold move there from Putin, who's going to smoke it out and then just try and hold time, and then just runs... Well, tries to run out of the Capitao smoke, but it is enough to put an end to his life as Fultz brings it to a 4-1. And there's the push in. There's Guisho finding another one, being able to hold on, and then finds another one. Puts himself on the triple kill now, but with a sliver of health, it is just a dream as Capitao goes for the plant. Bree fires against the smoke, can't quite land it, and is moving amongst the Bree, but finds him, but just with the cover from SSG that has been unbreakable so far.
Is he still the only guy with kills on his team?
Yes.
Wow.
Guisho is doing that.
I've never seen that before. After 5 rounds, and there's still 4 players yet to get a kill on one team.
You got to give credit.
Yikes.
He is really trying his hardest to throw himself into this game and what he's doing is exceptional because he's being active, he's being alive, he's being aggressive, which is taking SSG by a bit of surprise.
Yeah, it's pre-firing everything he can get his hands on.
And, you know, for me, it's great to see him kind of still battling that hard. There was a point I was making ages ago, and I've forgotten what it was now. I can't remember what we were talking about before that round.
We were talking about OGA pick closed qualifiers, or
Yes.
not closed qualifiers.
No,
This is the closed qualifiers.
That's true.
The LAN event.
Yeah, because if you take the teams that are most likely and expected, not saying they will, but most likely and expected to get
Here's
through.
what I'm going to predict.
Uh-huh.
All right. I'm going to predict G2 and Force.
Yep.
I'm going to predict Liquid and Team 1.
Yep.
And, NA, I'm not going to go NA because we haven't really seen a lot of NA yet.
Okay, but you've got to realize then, in and amongst that, so the list of teams that could be at this, obviously, Luminosity, Obey, who are having a great season. You've got Rogue, you've got SSG. That's just some of the ones from America. Obviously, in Latin America, you've got Team Liquid, and what was the other one? You've got Team 1 was the one you said. But then at the same time, you've got MIBR, you've got Elevate, who had the amazing game the other day and a lot to prove. You've got, you know, big kind of teams. Then EU, you predicted Forza and G2.
Yeah.
You've also got Secret, you've got Chaos, you've got BDS, you've got Penta, you've got August and Vitality. There's so many teams, so many regular big stage teams gunning for a place at this LAN. It's going to be insane because they're not playing for the prize pool. It's nice to have, but the place at the major has become such a big key. They'll want that skeleton key.
Yeah, whenever there is only 2 other options outside of Pro League finals, and we know that Pro League can be a cruel mistress to many of the teams playing in it. Of course, DreamHack Montreal was the other option you could have got your way in, and now OGA being the other. Discluding, of course, the online qualifiers, which, again, are going to be even more of a cesspool, I would say.
I mean, that's the thing about it, is because the way the qualifiers worked is, obviously, LATAM and America, they didn't get a huge amount of people in the open qualifiers, so a lot of people just got buyed straight into the tournament.
You have an impact. Can't you just shoot that? Yeah, that's what I had to say. Double rotate roam, and does get the 1 kill, and potentially another no. Misses the shots on the man on that north balcony, but then Rampy quickly refrags away, but still in control of a Ferris. So now for SSG, they're down men. More importantly, they're down the Thermite, which could have helped to open up the hatches, but Rampy's still alive, which I think is the main taken away point for SSG. Bosco also up, so has the fixed sheet and bolts that he can fire on through and try and smoke and fire off the crosses, and more than likely B's going to be their position. Oh, pre-play C4 has a camera underneath a desk inside a small room and then just waiting for Rampy to walk over the top of that. I wonder if that's going to work for them.
Well, they're trying to keep their eyes open, and with Guisho alive, who knows how this can go, but Rampy has his favorite position of this buck above, steadily trying to crack open the angles to force them further and further away from the place to be able to plant. With the C4 out of pocket, gonna just have to take this as firefights, but the smoke still has all utility left, and again, the Therasis found themselves battling this as a horizontal flat fight. Has found a rotation round into those central stairs with Thinking Nade yet again in the crossfire we saw him before, and this is what we've seen from SSG. They set up and they go for the execute, and this is book by book, play by play, how they did it last time, except last time they had all 5 of them up. There go the Capitao bolts, there hops in the diffuser. Thinking Nade is going to just try and dig in and stick in the plant after taking the Grismar out, with Rampy taking up where Nade was previously, and will they be able to stick it out?
Looks as if they will not. Ferris, they have won it due to the Toxic Babe. I don't know if it's Ferris who are just absolute crazy big brain players, or SSG looking pretty sloppy in their rounds. Like, this should not be as close as what it is. It really shouldn't.
It's weird that you're saying that when only 2 players on the Theras have kills. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying, and it is, I guess it's just down to SSG not really.
It's SSG making the mistakes.
Yeah, they're not taking full advantage.
You should never just allow what, yes, all credit to what Guichos did, but he should never be in that position to do so. You should never allow one guy to just take control of your game. Shouldn't happen.
Well, Armory Lockers and Archives we head to on the first SSG defense. They've set themselves up on a 4-2 split, which is, again, you know, it's more
Debatable.
rounds.
It's debatable.
Yeah, it's more rounds than we believed Atheris would have got, and they've got them pluckily, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
How much of that is under the swan song of the story of Guisho and what he has been able to pull off this map so far. But now they are trying to test the defenses of SSG. Defenses that on the previous map managed to pull 5 rounds in a row pretty convincingly as well. And the problems we saw from Atheris, well, their initial impact against the point was quick and succinct. They were able to get open what they wanted to get open as a single point, but then from then on it started to get a little bit blinkered. They would try and frag their way through the single hole they opened. There wasn't really any split in the play, and it would kind of fall apart from there. What I'm hoping to see is a little bit more of a split push, a little bit more of a spread of aggression. They've bought the double hard destruct, which is rarer to see on border, assuming they're going to try and open up obviously the main armory wall and then use the Habanas potentially on Office side, potentially on 90 to get the longer angles and have the firefight. But either way, those are 2 signs of potential split push, which I would love to see from them.
So, SSG, standard setup, nothing really out of the ordinary, and Thinking Nade was looking to get a little bit aggressive as that barricade wasn't fully broken, but just enough so he could prone in and out of it. Has been droned out. I think having the Maestro on the side is going to help SSG a lot to gain that information. And sure, Valkyrie's there, but IQ could have been an option for Atheris, but sadly for them, they haven't decided to take it up, which I'm a little bit against. You know, I look at the Twitch. What does Twitch really bring to this lineup?
5 less bullets.
Well, apart from the F2, yes, of course, but other than that, well, Twitch trying to get rid of a Maestro camera, you know, you have the Thatcher for that problem. You know, you probably would have wanted even like a buck in this situation, because Thinking Nade, he's in prime time position just to go for the bandit trick all day, but they will go for the double kind of Habana pellets, but Thinking Nade, you also could have stopped those X-Kairoses as well. Very easily.
Well, he's going to hand it down a little bit late there. The hole is there, and at this point, Nade is actually going to aggressively respond towards it. It's the Thermite that's looking for the firefight, and that is the mistake to be made when you have a Capitao on your roster and you know they're still playing that close, and you now have an angle to pop one of those bolts in. And at that point, you're either forcing him away from that wall, or he's going to die. Utilize your utility in this situation. Otherwise, you're just going to throw away your hard destruct. In the meantime, Fultz is just holding on and waiting for the long peek across the Archives walkway. And so far, no dice. And then Habana just swings around and drops the man from deep. Fultz kind of dropped the ball on that firefight. And here is the split pressure that I begged for. And it's coming in waves right now.
But it's a risky one to go for, because as soon as you go for the other side, everybody in the defense, you're defending A, will just switch over to B, and because you've used so much utility in trying to go for your initial push, you don't have enough utility to actually force your way into B. I say that, somehow they still made it work, and they're still making it work as from below. Kef on the F2, he's dropped below, but Bosco, he's followed him down, and now SSG in a 3v2, and Bosco knows there's one right beside him in the corridor. Diffuser's going to try and come in. Bosco misses shots with SMG-11, and now Thinking Nade, he has to stop. It has the Nitrocell, gets tossed out, and will it land at Smart? No, it misses, and the Diffuser will be planted by Atheris, and say that Thinking Nade jumps on through. Now it's down to Bosco, doesn't even get that close. Atheris, they lock it out. They take, yet again, another round.
4-3 in the favor of SSG, but a 1-round difference just after the split. I think even just looking at the previous map, none of us expected. Guisho still storming away on 10 kills, with Bosco and Rampy meeting the figure, but at the same time, the rest of Atheris have started to wake up and find bodies of their own, which is a bit of a blessing, I think, for the man that has otherwise single-handedly kept them in this game. Now, can they capitalize on the ground that they have made? Opting to swap to Vent, not going to take the same armory point, and potentially going to swap round. Yep, a little bit of a difference in the operators here. Got to give credit to SSG. They almost pulled it back with the 2 bodies, but in a weird way, you would expect them to not be in that situation. So more of the credit is in the favor of Atheris. They responded, they split their push, they started to look at a more dynamic way into the point and against the defense that has otherwise locked them out continually throughout this playday so far. And I am so happy to start to see this on a map that maybe they just prefer to attack.
Now we move to vents, so rather than going back upstairs for armory, they're going to change up and try and keep things as fresh as they can. Very similar operators, again, the only difference, Legion now coming into the picture and Bandit is now gone. And really, it's understandable on a bomb site like Vents, which is a lot more open in terms of the potential of pushing power that you have. And whenever you now extend towards the top floor, Legion can be great in denying those quick, aggressive, rushes that teams will try and go for. Gives you that sound cue. Legion's more used as an intel operator than really he gets credit for, because he's great at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not only do you have the audio cues, which is such a big part, but you have the visual cues as well. Legion can physically see when and which direction his mine has been triggered on, and it gives him such a great breakdown. There's a good impact trick there. Don't know if it was successful or if that was just a split break, because we instantly yet again see Atheris applying this straight away out the door pressure. Again, it's one of the biggest compliments I've given the team so far, is they waste no time in starting to try and take advantage of SSG, and whether it's just a trend of the Mexican playstyle in the Mexican League of being able to take a team out before they even really finish themselves, but against a slow and balanced team like SSG, they can find dividends. Kef swings wide on the window, hits a point, and it's Alan Durf that opens up the frags against Faults as Thinking Nade looks to try and hold on above.
This is all well and good if you're a Ferris. Yes, you've took control of customs. Yes, you've got the first pick. But as long as there's top floor control from SSG, you're not planting the bomb. So, what that means for a Ferris, they have to make a big decision. Do they try and force their way onto site and plant in a position where there is no coverage from above, or do they rotate all of their resources into the upstairs clear-out? It's a tricky one to go for, and, well, it will be met by Canadian as they tried to go for the upstairs, and straight off the rip, the LMG fires through, but the refrag is there, and SSG now once again on the back foot.
Well, now it's another one in the favor of Alan Durf, dropping Canadian, and they're starting to pull across this vertical control, but Rampy is there to at least bring some semblance of balance back to SSG. Atheris, they have vertical, and they have a 2 versus 1 as Rampy finds another, and it is the big man Grisho that has been taken out the equation. Is aware there's a body above him and is pinging it out, but is otherwise just the last one left. The information is for himself as they're trying to creep in and find the pincer here against the final man. They have to time this well, and if they do, that's them, but the C4 is a bit of a trick play, doesn't quite catch, and they're just trying to find the way inside. They're taking this as a split firefight, and there it is! Atheris putting themselves on 4-4.
Oh, Rampy, that was a tough one for you to clutch. You know you're good, but maybe not that good. Honestly, he could have had a potential of rotating out of bomb site and try to get himself into a more clear position in towards the main stairs. Could have been tricky for the man in sight to kind of deal with that. You know, Twitch was over towards the hatch and possibly could have baited in the Twitch to dropping. Because as soon as he knows that both of them are in the bomb site, all of that destructibility that was made upstairs, the different holes, then that could have played into his advantage. So there was options there, but just didn't catch on to it quick enough. But sure, it is what it is. Let bygones be bygones, and we move on to our next round.
Armory lockers and archives are going to go back to a point with a bit more solidity. The 6th pick of Lion to IQ, potentially baiting, I guess, a little bit more of the movement. But so far, as we said of SSG, they're pretty comfortable. They're great at reacting late on, as we saw some of the rotation previously. Well, not that round, but the round before with a drop down the hatch and almost pulling it back from behind on central stairs. But otherwise, they like to kind of set themselves up and hold their angles. And so far, Atheris are really just swinging into these attack rounds and swinging into this border with a pace that shows, well, I guess that Grisho has inspired them from the way he was bringing this playstyle in the first half of this border. I'm curious to see how SSG are going to respond to this, because they're a team where they don't seem like they're really playing on all cylinders right now, and you expect them to be able to kick it up a gear if they did want to, but at the same time, Atheris if they keep stepping up, if they keep finding the pressure and keep finding more and more of these rounds, they might just be able to keep clawing themselves into these situations where they have this advantage.
You know, you look at the other regions, you look at the other teams, the professional teams, the big dogs, who we expect should be crushing these little teams. You take Liquid, for example, in Latin America. They made, you know, mincemeat with their team. G2 was shaky, granted, so maybe SSG are the G2 of this region. You even look at Penta, they struggled. What was the second match of the EU qualifiers? Who was it? I forget.
You're testing me now as I swing
That was
through my
Trust Orderless, which was a lot more of a closer match, but that was expected of them.
They're both CL teams. They're at least they're in the same league and in the same balance, which we otherwise haven't had at all, but we will have for the next match today. There's two NACL teams, and we'll see how those translate. But Bosco finds the opening frag against Skimzy, and again, they're not wasting really much time here in getting themselves entrance. Having the first slip could be a big problem, but they're trying to get through thinking nade, and I like the aggression response here from Rampy, setting up with the half wall to try and be able to keep the angle across and from half wall, the reinforcement even, but they're just going to try and let thinking nade keep tricking this away as much as he can. Bouncing the frag grenade around the corner, but it doesn't catch. It was unfortunately mistimed. The second one goes off and gets caught by the ADS. It's just going to swing round, and they don't have the Capital this time to make the quick work that they could have otherwise had, but Kef at least takes out Canadian and brings a bit of a balance back to a 4-4.
That's the thing about SSG and their setups. They play each other's positions so well. Whenever I say each other's positions, they know what to look out for. You know, for example, Finkenade, he's bandit tricking. Equally, the man covering, he knows what to look out for. If he was bandit tricking, he knows the weaknesses of that position, and that's why he's behind the shield. Vaults also adds on, yet again, another kill for him, but then there's the refrags coming in from Aferis, but strictly back into the way of SSG once more. Now a 1 versus 3, essentially, for Kef all to do.
Well, Kef is now holding onto Metal, and obviously Thermite is down and pretty much out on the other side. And the wallbang swing in a worried response to Rampy popping bullets through the wall bags another. And it's going to go for a big rotate with the pistol to try and pick Alan up. Obviously, a bit of a risk. They heard the pre-fire going off, and they're trying to shut down, but without any canisters or anything, the C4 is going to be the throw, but Thinking Nade's arm is just not long enough, unfortunately, and he can't quite make it land. Now it is a 2 versus 2, though Thermite is pretty much on death's door. The charge goes off on the Archives wall now, and it's the big battle across the long sight lines, but against the F2, it's a bit of a ferocious firefight, and the SMG and shotgun is going to have to play pretty clever alongside the opposing thing.
You see the pre-play smoke on towards Metal, which should be popped. Pretty easy for Bosco as he swings on around with the shotgun, and, well, SSG, they're ready to lock it out. And Bosco cleans up shop.
SSG, they find their hands at least back on one of the controls of the spaceship and steer themselves slightly away from the sun they were hurtling towards.
You like those puns, don't you? Like the space station puns.
I really like space.
Oh, good for you.
Thank you. And I'm not really sure, again, if the Atheris, was it a dragon? Was it a lizard? Was
snake.
It a snake? I'm not sure.
It's a snake.
It's a cool logo, but I don't want to start making puns about that because I'll get it wrong, and I don't want to. Space Station's easy because you know what that is.
So it's not a space station because the logo's an astronaut.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he's got a... I mean, there's still astronauts on a space station.
I see astronauts on Halloween.
Is that what you're wearing for the stream?
No.
Oh. What if Space Station do a big... They were selling a Space Station outfit, weren't they? Actually,
yeah, they were at Raleigh, yeah.
Rampy
dressed up as one, yeah.
Great gifts from that.
If I was to dress up as like a North American kind of costume, it would probably just be like me choking.
Well, it's a bold time to make those jokes, but I guess they're in chat and, you know, you can just turn off chat and look away from it, but I'm sure they're responding well. I bet, actually, the Mexican fans are loving that. 5-4 we sit on now. SSG, as I said, have pulled themselves a little bit back into this, but it's far from over. Atheris have done some great work on their attacks against this border so far. Can they keep that momentum up, or have SSG finally found the gear they want to start shifting the game into? going down to the vent point and dropping down a floor, and obviously this was a point that's had a little bit of a contentious history between these two teams, but so far it's been, you know, balanced to 50-50 win-loss for both of them across the two halves of the game, so it's still up in the air of how this translates. Giving themselves the sledge to lock down as much control alongside the buck. The vertical on this previously was very well put together, and SSG found themselves a little bit outnumbered, a little bit outgunned, and maybe it could have been the pace as we instantly see them swarming and locking their sights towards this detention side and otherwise rotating around the other as well. Bosco going to try and catch the impact trick this time, and it does work. Previously, that was a big loss, and it's already stumbled Alan, who is looking for a secondary route in. They're going to have to pull a little bit further back now.
Okay, so that is perfect from SSG, because last time this didn't work. Is he going to go for another one? Oh, no, there we go, he gets that. I thought that was a little bit delayed. I was about to go absolutely crazy if he got the second one, but honestly, it's still amazing he got the first one, because it basically limits what Ferris can do towards the top floor control, which is what they've rotated up in towards next. First off, they try and pinch her in towards custom, which is kind of like their first option to clear out any roamers, and then they rotate above. And the reason why they take customs is if anybody wants to come down like main stairs as they flee out of the armory, you have that coverage there to pick up the free kills. So now they're limited to simply walking through the doorways, which isn't going to work whenever there's a Legion on the board, and of course also Finky Nade behind the shield.
Well, Alan gets the opening frag there against Canadian as they start to apply the trademark pressure within the opening 45 minutes mark. They've steadily creeped their way across the southwesterly side on the top and the second floor, and a grenade drops nade, and suddenly now it's looking a bit worse and worse as it's a 5 versus 2. Atheris systematically closing down Fultz with a brilliant swing, gets instantly traded and picked up by the man at the bottom of metal stairs, and now it's just a habit of trying to find their way in point as Atheris. 5-5 we find ourselves battling back to.
Wow, Vents has been a real stickler for SSG. They can't break it down, and kind of seems to be that first kill syndrome is kind of biting them in the wrong position. And, you know, SSG are a team which we've talked about are extremely strict in the positions they play. They're coordinated. They have the set positions which they methodically practice over, and they go into a real lot of depth behind it. But overall, whenever they kind of lose one player and, you know, a cog gets taken out of the massive machine, then things start to slow down and they start to splutter and kind of puff out from there. I don't know what it is, SSG, they kind of rely on the first pick.
Well, customs and supply, they're going to opt to for the first time. They're not going to try Vents again, and with the habit of how it's gone these past two attempts, I think that's fair to say. Whatever they're attempting isn't quite being able to hold onto enough ground, and Atheris is able to just, well, pick them off.
Defenders, protect your bombs from
Customs, surprisingly from SSG, they've seen that Vents is just a plague. They can't defend it to save themselves, and now I'm curious to see what Customs will offer us. Typically for Customs, you try and hold that security as much as you can. Of course, security is a massive thing whenever there's hatches that literally open up one entire bomb site, and verticality can also open up the A. So similar to how teams would try and defend the Vents, they try and do with Customs. It's a tough one, because you do have that massive hatch in the middle, which teams kind of revolve around. But they're actually going to reinforce it, where if you're trying to hold upstairs, typically that's left open to give your defenders not only control of the bomb site if they just try and force their way in through the bottom floor, but also rotate if things start heading south. Instead, SSG, they're going to try and set up towards Armory, so an even further extension, and I believe they're going to try and leave the Alibi by herself. And Alibi's an interesting one. We know has a great gun, MX4 Storm, minimal recoil, great damage per second. But the gadget can be a little bit lackluster in many cases, just because if you fall for a Prisma, you're a bit of a noob, aren't you? Aren't you, Flook? You do that quite a bit.
I mean, well, what I'm hoping to see now is Rampy taking explosive reactions to that. So if they can kind of bait what has been quick aggression from Atheris into hitting those and responding with their own quick aggression, it could really start to pull them apart one at a time, because, you know, what is working very well for Atheris, look at this. Their man is already in the connector inside. Yes, gets taken by Thinking Nade, but the pace that they're approaching this with is continual and not really relenting, finding the return firefight from the Maestro inside. hit the small box, and otherwise from that point on, Faults is just again suffering from multiple different sides. And if they can find the alibi, then you know it could be a similar kind of story. There goes Faults, dropped down to safety, but a quick pickup from Guisho, who is able to retain some of this vertical control. And you can see now it's just Canadian and Rampy upstairs trying to hold on to the direct vertical.
Canadian will try and drop, and just that was a little bit weird. That hatch didn't let him drop as quick as what it should have, but still, they've managed to leave the control off security. Since that main hatch is still reinforced, Ferris will have to try and open it with a Thermite, but they have no intention. They're looking to creep their way into bomb site and simply plant inside of A. That's not really going to work out whenever there's so many people towards that side of the map. You can quickly refrag and very easily uproot your plant. And I say that, SSG fire on through with another kill, and now Ferris have it all to do. And try and stick the plant, and there comes the response from SSG. The smoke canister gets tossed out, and Ferris look as if they kind of lost this round just simply due to not knowing where they wanted to push upstairs.
Well, that's it. And you think of the utility that's still in the pockets. I believe Canadian still has the C4 as well. The second smoke canister is used, and the third one, surprisingly, maybe didn't expect the second to work, and Canadian finds one, doubling his kill count for the game, I believe. Thinking Nade finds Putin on the meantime, and now it's just a matter of a lone Guisho who can't quite fit his way out the window, suffering as SSG find their way onto the 6-5 position.
So they break their customs, and this does allow them to go armory, which they've won once, but also lost it. Their first one kind of came down to very sloppy kind of refrag potential from SSG, and I kind of think it comes back to that first blood syndrome. You see, on this occasion, the first blood went in favor of SSG, and the more important thing about it was Kef, who was getting those kind of opening frags for Ferris. He was able to get into a really sneaky position. Like, he was literally on the cusp of the bomb site by like 2 minutes 30. If he had got like an opening frag on one of the anchors, it sets SSG back quite a bit. It means then they have to rotate a lot sooner than what they would want to, and that alleviates the pressure off the defenders that Ferris would have to deal with upstairs. So simply by eliminating that one little pesky lone wolf kind of hunter attacker, it's just put things right into their control. And if they do the same, I don't think Ferris will come back from that.
Well, it's back to Armory. They've won it once and they've lost it once, so again, it's been a point of contention in these swings. That gives both teams a bit of hope. Atheris, the previous time round they were here, did get it down to a 2-2 situation with a man almost pulling the plant off, but some nifty shotgun work from the hands of SSG managed to lock it down, but that means they are far from out. If Atheris can push this into overtime, they can really have a chance at bringing this back around and bringing us to the third map of this best of 3. It is in SSG's court, however, as they sit on match point to be able to lock this out with the same skill and finesse they managed in the previous round, something that has otherwise been lacking from the team throughout this half, it seems, and they just haven't really been able to find themselves rolling as a lot of people expected them to. Canadian bringing the Legion and changing operators obviously has kind of struggled to get his way into this game so far, and hopefully we'll find a little bit more success, but again, the spread of kills across Atheris' side from what it was at the turn of the half, where only 2 players had kills, to what it sits at now, just shows how much more vibrant and violent they've been on these attacks.
Bit of Mexican spice being added into the mix, isn't there? Which you love to see. Things you love to see. Come on, finish it for me.
This.
It's supposed to be that, but okay.
That. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You need to keep up with the meme game, bro.
I know, you do all these references. I think I just go outside too much.
Oh well, maybe James will get them.
Putin was already low health from a struggled entry across those eastern stairs, and now it's just a matter of trying to, well, reconvene themselves and find a second way of approaching. In the meantime, they are already cracking open with Guisho on the buck, watching from underneath against this triple wall and officers. They're going for this officers push and completely forgoing the armory side. They know how they want to take this, and Guisho is almost opening up a destructive red carpet underneath to just try and get some control and force any lurking SSG players to a more uncomfortable position. Otherwise, here comes the sprays and the pre-fires and a rotation there as Canadian's going to try and find his way across the back, quickly realizing that it is a flat push all from one side. Hopefully SSG can react to it the same way we expect them to. Or Atheris might be able to find the quick wind, find the quick sails, and utilize it to storm through as they get the B-point wall open.
An interesting thing about the setup that SSG do compared to many other teams is they leave one wall soft on Fountain. And that's not, you know, the kind of say attackers push through that. That's to allow them to defend B a lot easier if the push is solely coming from office. You can see now, Canadian, he's inside security. He's in a great position. He has an impact grenade, or actually doesn't have an impact grenade, had bulletproofs instead. Okay, so maybe going for the intel, but generically, you would use the impact grenade to open up into Fountain to stop the plant. But SSG, they're just going to try and hunt the rumors from below and try and play with C4s that Thinking Ed, I'm sure, probably has. And there's Canadian fires through with another kill. There's no utility as well, so there's no C4. There's nothing really that will stop Atheris if they try and go for the plant, apart from the body count that still SSG have. Volts now inside of main corridor will try and sanction off east stairs, and Bandit tries to jump up, but it doesn't really matter if the refrags are there from Canadian, but still Atheris, they are in control. The Guman goes off of main stairs, and Rampy will try and stop the plant, which he does, but still a 1v2. All to do for Rampy. He's been stuck in this scenario all too often. Let's see if he can do it again, and this time clutch it up. A triple kill for him. Oh, it's actually Canadian steals that away. And now a 1v1. It's down against the Thatcher, and Rampy finish it and sends it home.
Well, I think the spray we saw from Rampy after that just kind of exemplifies the game SSG had. I don't think they expected any of the fire, the violence, and the finesse that the second-ranked team from Mexico managed to bring, but you've got to give credit to Atheris because they made especially that second map a lot more intense and exciting than I think any of us expected to see.
Yeah, SSG, they were bleeding quite a bit, weren't they? There was real true colors being shown by them. They look sloppy in their attacks, more importantly. You know, some of their attacks were incredible. We've seen 2 back-to-back flawless rounds, but there was moments where it was really questionable. Allowing one guy to pull off a 1v5? You kidding me?
Pretty impressive to see. Talking about seeing blood and violence, I only have a little bit of a feeling that we're about to have that turned up to 11. Next game up on the roster tonight is a best of 3 between Challenger League Blood, Akatsuki, and Adventure Force. 2 teams that have met before and I'm sure are chomping at the beat to meet again on stream, if I can get my words together, and that will be the next game, followed by Rogue versus Akami. For now, though, we're going to have a quick break for adverts, and we will see you after those.
predict the outcome, win the game. Get live coverage and schedules for your favorite tournaments. Analyze, predict, and vote to gain points. Compete with other esports fans and climb the leaderboards. Strafe, everything esports. Download now on iOS and Android.